What is good, good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and today we have an extremely special guest for an extremely special episode. Mother's Day is right around the corner, and this lady that I have as my guest, there would be no Since We Last Spoke, there would be no Danny Foxworth if it weren't for this woman. This is my mom, aka Mom Dukes, aka Myron Foxworth. Mom, how are the goings of your doings today?
Everything's moving.
Hey, hey, I like it. So just to I just had this thought since it was Mother's Day. I just wanted to make this one super special, and what better guest to have on than my mom. So just introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hi, everyone. I am Danny's mom. I've known him his whole life, before his life. And what I'm finding out about him every day is a source of great joy and amazement and pride.
Man, it's kind of early to start making me tear up.
I'm sorry, but it's true.
And I greatly appreciate those kind words. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to start from the very beginning. So growing up in Summerville, South Carolina, what was that experience like?
It was kind of like what you would see on Andy Griffith, except for dirt streets. Everybody knew everybody. You could walk to wherever you needed to go. Oftentimes, my mom would give me, I don't know, a dollar or a dollar and a quarter and say, go to the red and white, get me a cabbage or get me a head of lettuce. I could never tell the two apart. So I always brought home, I had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And most times I didn't. That cabbage and lettuce stuff got me every time. I was like, why she asked me to do that? But you could walk everywhere, and because it was a small town, everybody knew everybody. Everybody in our community, the Black community knew each other, but also people who didn't look like me. They knew me. They knew us from our parents. Our parent, with both parents working in town, one working at a restaurant and the other working for Coca-Cola, they were known to to the salespeople and whatnot. So, it wasn't unusual to go in like Barchet's department store, which is kind of like our Barron's, and, pick up stuff for church and just say, put it on Louis D's bill, or go in and, Saul Alexander, one of the stores that had like the wood floors, and it smelled like wood floors. It was just an old creaky building. But again, you could walk there from mother's house, and and of course walking there was an adventure in itself, because then you met up with other people who were walking. Back in those days, a lot of ladies didn't drive, so they walked, and they most times would have umbrellas. And it took me a long time to figure out why they had umbrellas, because of the sun. But I
Yeah.
was so young, I didn't care nothing about that. I was just like, going to the store, it was a good way to get out of the house. And a lot of people still had swept yards. Like, my parents didn't have grass in their yard for most of my childhood until probably I got into high school. There was no grass in the yard. It was swept clean. I don't remember mother sweeping it, but I remember that there was no grass in the yard, because I had the best um, little dirt houses after a rain that were just like little castles, in my opinion.
And I tell you what, I don't feel so bad now because as a kid, I had the same exact problem trying to distinguish between lettuce and cabbage.
Oh,
It,
sorry.
I see where I get it from. I mean, and it took me almost up until adulthood to figure out what was what.
Yeah. And once you figured it out, you're like, man, that is not hard. Like, cabbage is so much more
Yeah.
dense than lettuce. If I would have looked at the leaves, or mother would have said, look at this leaf, if she would have used that to help me distinguish, then I would have immediately known the one that has the paper leaves, the real thin leaves, that's lettuce.
Yeah. I remember I tried making a salad and not realizing I was putting cabbage leaves in the bowl.
Oh,
Ooh, buddy, that was a tough chew.
mm, good roughage though.
Yeah, true story. So, just describe life, how life was with your siblings growing up. You had two brothers and a sister.
So, essentially I'm the middle one. And being the middle with a sister 10 years older and a brother 18 months older, I learned quickly how to fend for myself because like my brother harassed me unmercifully. Daddy even talks about he harassed me even as I was a little baby. They had to watch him because he would,
Wow.
he would poke fun at me, and I had an umbilical hernia. So his fascination was to make me cry, so my stomach would swell up.
Really?
Yeah, he
Wow.
was he was a joker even back then. So yeah, and then my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than me. So I was like, he's not important. So it's all about me. It's all about me. Y'all brought this other person here. Nobody asked me, and so I found that I was a very aggressive child because I felt like I was a sandwich, in the middle of two slices of bread, and I had to make sure that my presence was known. So consequently, I fought every day with my siblings, one or the other. We would fight every day, and I always talked trash to them. So
Hey,
yeah,
that's the D's way right there.
yeah, I know. Hmm.
I'm gonna move up a couple of years to high school.
Okay.
And I remember you telling me when I was a kid that when you were in high school, the students were allowed to be school bus drivers.
Yes.
Talk about that.
So being the aggressive one in the family, I always had a plan for something. Like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, And so when I got my driver's license, and I realized well, no, I didn't realize. I knew students were driving buses because I rode on a bus to school. But the idea occurred to me, I have to go to this place every day. I have to ride in this yellow vehicle every day. So why not I drive it so I can make some money to go to the mall? Because the mall had just opened, when I went to high school. So that was a big deal. So, I broached the subject to my mom, and she said, absolutely not. You are not driving no bus. You cannot take no bus driver's license. You don't even know how to drive a standard shift. No, that is a no. I was like, okay. I went to the school and I said, do I need to I didn't have to have my parents' permission. So I took the written test and passed it. I mean, I was always a good test taker. So I was like, I'm just going to study this book. I mean, I'm going to pass it. But then the real deal was, now I got to sit behind the wheel of this big vehicle and drive it. And I have never driven a standard
Mm,
shift. And so I had a really good friend who drove bus, and Summerville had a huge bus parking lot. And so she would let me on her, like when she had study hall or whatever. I don't even know how we made it happen, but I would drive around the bus parking lot to practice driving. She was real kind and let me do it. Uh, but you couldn't go through all the gears because you're just in the parking lot. You
hmm.
can't get up to the speed you need to shift all of the gears. So, but it gave me a sense of, gas and clutch, changing the gear. And one night, really and truly, and all this time, my mama did not know.
Wow.
She just did not know. And so, I had this dream one night, and I'm a vivid dreamer. I had a dream about driving the bus, and I clearly got the confidence to shift the gears. Like in the dream, I was driving, I wasn't stalling. I didn't have to see whether I was going to H or to up or down. I did it. And so that next morning, I told Angelique, I said, I want to drive today. I said, I had a dream about driving, and that's the thing that gave me the confidence to finally do it. Now I choked off a good bit in the street,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't lose it. And so yeah, I got my bus driver's license and I came home and I said, well, mother, I got my bus driver's license. And she says, I'm gonna beat your you know what. That's fine. I still got the license. Yeah, I mean, you can't take that from me. And so, yes, I started driving school bus. I had a couple of wrecks driving the school bus, but nobody died. And I took the bus back to the place, but I got a paycheck every month, and I could shop at the
Wow.
mall.
There you go. You had
And
a
I
plan.
still, yep,
You had a plan and you saw it through.
I saw it through. I still got some shoes that I bought at the mall back in the '70s in my closet
Really?
right now. Yes,
No kidding.
yes, I do.
Man.
I'll show them to you sometime.
Okay. And also in high school, you were in the Summerville High marching band.
Yes. Best
Get
experience of my life
man, how so?
because it's early '70s, um and integration is just exploding in Summerville. The segregated schools have been dismantled, and now you're forced to integrate, and being a part of the band gave me an in. Gus Moody, God rest his soul, was the band director at Somerville High, and he came over to Alston Middle School, Alston High School, and he auditioned us. And so here we are, playing sight music, and I passed the audition. Everybody that passed the audition, then it was like we had a pre-camp before school started so that we could learn not only the new music, but the procedures and process for the band. We were all given like mentors. We got to spend time on the campus when there weren't any kids there, so we learned our way around the campus before everybody got there. And that band room became our safe place. As Black kids, we never were treated like we were different. Mr. Moody
Mm-hmm.
expected he told the line. Everybody had to toe the line. And so that was a really good, being on the band was a really good experience. It gave me a lot of discipline. It caused me to really connect with people who didn't look like me in a time where it could have been really uncomfortable to connect with people who didn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
But the band was like their own cult. I mean, Somerville
Wow.
band was like its own cult, but it didn't have a cult leader. It had Gus Moody and his wife and his children, and so they loved on everybody. Mr. Moody and his wife, I saw them in Mr. K's Piggly Wiggly last time. Like right before I got married, I saw them there, and they found out I was getting married, and they made sure they brought a gift to mother's house for me.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
What instrument did you play?
tenor sax. I was the only girl tenor sax. I was the Yes, I was the only girl tenor sax player. And you know what? In the band, like in order to be like you would get challenged. You ever saw the movie Drumline?
Mm-hmm.
So like you would literally, get challenged if you wanted to move up to like first chair or second chair, and so I would challenge people. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn this stuff and I can play better than you. But being the only girl, was like, that girl ain't gonna do nothing. So yeah, I enjoyed the band. It was a lot of fun, and we got to go to a lot of travel a lot of places. Um, the band competition, the state competition in Columbia at Spring Valley High School, and that was the most stressful time of my life. Oh my God, I felt like I was gonna hurl right on the field as
Was
soon
it
as
the,
we.
was it the
Go ahead.
competition, the field of competition that made you stressful?
Oh yes, and just the pressure of everything needing to be right because you knew that they were judging everybody, you know,
True.
as a whole group. So yeah, but it was all good. It
What
was
was your
good.
favorite song to play?
That I couldn't tell you. Um, mm, I don't know. When probably we played a lot of fight songs. da 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 da, because you play while the team is running and that kind of stuff. So that was cool. We didn't play contemporary stuff at Summerville. We played contemporary stuff before we went there, like at the
I
at
got
the
you.
at Austin. That band director there at Austin, when I think about what Aaron Brown did because we didn't have money to buy parts for all of the instruments. So the band director literally transposed and wrote all of the music for all of the instruments. So you get this piece of paper with your handwritten parts for a song.
Really?
Yes.
Was he like
Yes.
writing like the sheet music?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yes. Yes. So, whatever the song, I'm trying to think, there was a song, Ebony and Ivory, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that we played. And, yeah, I mean, and I imagine the person just got the score and were just, but because every instrument had their own part, but it wasn't purchased stuff. It was stuff that was handwritten, legibly, but handwritten.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one of the questions submitted by my sister pertaining to high school was, what was your favorite outfit in high school?
Jeans. I wore blue jeans hard. Like I wear a pair of jeans the whole week if my mom didn't like catch it. And I had and because patches were really important to the personality of the jeans. So like you would buy all of these funky patches and you put on the jeans to stand out because everybody else is wearing jeans. And I had this patch that I got, and I don't know where I got this patch from. And it had a donkey on there, and it said a good, and then it had the donkey. It's hard to find. Can you believe that my daddy let me wear that? Boy,
Really?
I wore those pants hard because I was like, okay, this is a little rebellious. This is a little out here. I'm gonna see. And yeah, I wore them pants all the time. I may have pulled the shirt down over it so that they couldn't see it because it was right on the butts, right on the butt cheeks too.
That's funny, but that rebellious streak, I see it went from childhood up until then.
Yep,
Man,
absolutely.
I never knew that. That's awesome. So we're gonna go from the high school years to the courtship era. So how did you and dad meet?
Wow. Um, we met at a club called Club Apollo, and I met him because I used to go with a bunch of girls. On Friday nights we would just go. Most times none of us drove. We'd have to hitch a ride. So we'd either ride with some of my brother's friends because they were older. And my brother's job was to always watch out for me. It was the other way around. Um, and but or some of our friends from church, we would ride to the clubs, and I met him there, and then he was interested in talking to me, but then a friend of mine kind of went fatal attraction on him, and she started liking him. So she started like talking about he wanted to see her and sending messages to him by daddy and all kinds of stuff. So uh um Elaine Smith, J. Paul's mom, I don't know if you remember her.
Mm-mm.
She wanted to, we said we were going to go out this Friday night. And I said, well, I don't have a ride. Do you have a ride? She said, I think I might have somebody we can catch a ride with. And I said, okay. And she says, one of my cousins. And it was Ronnie. And she asked him if she could go out with him. And he said, sure. And she said, come by and get me. And when he went and picked her up, she told him, I have a friend that wants to ride too. And he got mad. He was mad. And he said, and he pulls up at my house, and I come outside, and he says, that's the girl I've been looking for. I wondered where she lived.
Wow.
And so he was super happy. I knew nothing. I just sat in the back seat, and I was like, I don't want him to talk to me. Just take me to the club so we can dance, and then bring me back home safe. But when we got done at the club that night, he took her home first, and then he brought me home last, and he said, "Do you mind if I come and see you again?" And I said, "Sure, that's fine." I was like, "Sure," because I was talking to another guy from Charleston at the time. So my mama said, "You're not gonna have two guys coming here to this house. You got to pick one." Okay. And yeah, so the rest is history. We started dating in October, and by February we were engaged.
Wow. And
Yep.
went from courtship to parenthood. So
Yep.
yeah, let's get into the mom portion of the mom program. So
Go ahead.
having Melissa, which is my oldest sibling, the firstborn. How was that? Like
So
what was that experience like?
so first of all, I'll just be completely honest. I didn't want to have kids. And I told your dad, I was like, we don't need no kids, man. It's all good." And I would say to him, "I'm not enough. Why do you need kids?" And he's like, "We gotta have some kids." And I said, "What? I'm not enough." So, I took it a little personally.
Mm-hmm.
And and he's like, "That's not what I mean. I just say we need to have kids." And I was like, and so I don't think we even planned it when I
Mm-hmm.
got pregnant with Melissa, because I had just stopped working at St. Francis Hospital and I started working for Rep Myers, and I was sick. I thought I had the flu. And Miss Florence Gibbs said, "You better do a pregnancy test." And I did that pregnancy test. I said, "Oh Lord, I'm pregnant. Oh my God." And so I was like, "Well, Ronnie's gonna be real happy." So I remember we went to Weston Sizzlin,
Oh my gosh.
and I said, "Ronnie, I'm pregnant." And he was like, "For real?" Oh, he was so happy. And I was like, "Man, okay." So yeah. You know, didn't know a lot about what to expect. And I said, "Well, I want to have, natural childbirth. I don't want to have anything for pain. I want you in the delivery room with me, not my mama, not your mama, because they didn't get me like this. You got me like this. So you go in with me for the whole deal." And so he would go with me to the doctor whenever he could, and we would have to go to Lamaze classes, which is the childbirth, exercise, class. And so we would go to the Lamaze classes together at MUSC. So that was a little bit of a drive for us.
Yeah.
And and then they said, "Well, you have to watch the movie so you can look at, see what childbirth is like," and da 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 da. So they didn't do that at the very beginning, but I guess about three-quarters of the way in, we had to go to MUSC, to the basic science building, and watch this movie on childbirth, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want no kids then. He looked at that. He didn't even want to talk about that movie. Like, he was moved. And not
Was it the miracle of life?
I don't know what it was called. I can't even tell you, because I can't even remember. I might have slept through the whole thing because I don't even remember. I just remember what his reaction was. He's like, "Oh Lord, I don't think I can go in there with you.
I
I don't
was
think I can do this."
because I was wondering if it was the one that they actually show the actual childbirth.
Yes. Yeah, they
Okay.
actually showed the actual childbirth. So
Okay.
I don't know what the name of it was.
I think it's something similar to that because I remember watching that in grade school.
What?
Yeah. I think we watched it in like fifth or sixth grade.
Oh Lord, have mercy. Okay, well, I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
he was not. And so yeah, and there was no gender reveal stuff, back then. So you just like had to figure it out. But I had the best obstetrician, Dr. Frank Bench. He was just the kindest person. And and even like today, with the way that Black women are being, talking about their treatment by OBGYNs, and how so many of them die, and have babies that die because they get poor care from obstetricians. That man was just amazing. He was just amazing. And so we had Melissa June 17th, and I was watching Hawaii 5-0 that Thursday night. I went into labor.
Wow.
I had been cleaning and I had everything all ready, and I ate some collard greens and baked chicken, and I lost all of that, just threw it up.
Hmm.
And yep, we went to the hospital, and I don't know, 7 to 8 hours later, here she comes. And then I was like, "Oh God, what am I gonna do with this little thing?" Like I was scared. I was like, "Oh Lord, have mercy!" Like, oh, but I mean, we didn't kill her, so that was good.
That's a good sign.
That was good. But she will tell you that she felt all of the bumps of being the first one, because a lot of things we just didn't know. And so, I mean, if there was an experiment that happened, it was with her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
So then we'll fast forward to my conception and you being pregnant with me. What was that like?
You were the pregnancy with you was night and day from Melissa. I was sick the entire time.
My bad.
Oh, I, I was one miserable puppy. Oh my God. I was just sick. And I could not stand to smell your daddy. Like, but I didn't want him out of my sight. So it was really difficult to live with me, when I was pregnant with you. And of course I can remember kneeling beside my bed and asking the Lord for a boy. And I could remember asking him for specific things that I now see in you, like being kind and being considerate, loving the Lord, having a love for life, being a good person. I can remember kneeling there, and this conversation is making me think back to that. You know, I didn't really know what I was asking, but I knew I wanted great things for you, even though I hadn't met you yet. And I was really grateful that you were a boy, because I knew that's what your daddy wanted. He was disappointed now that when they told him Melissa was a girl. Look on his face in that delivery room was not one of joy immediately. But he got to that place. He loved her, but he wanted that boy first. And so getting that son boy, he was like, yes, okay, I got it. But yeah, and then being pregnant with you, and you were a large baby. You were almost 10 pounds. And so I would sit down on the toilet. I couldn't see nothing, because like it wasn't nothing but belly. I mean, you were big. You were a big old something, and you would move around so much inside of me, and I'd be like, oh my God. So I had this position that I would sleep in that looks a little bit like child's pose and downward dog. So I would be on my knees with my head down, and I would have the pillows up underneath me, and I would sleep like that. And after you were born, you would sleep like that plenty times.
I remember sleeping like that.
Yeah, because that was the only way I could get comfortable. But having you, was it was different for me, psyche. Now I think back, because I I was real OCD, like to the point that I couldn't go to sleep without having everything in the house perfect before I went to bed. So I would stay up late to get everything perfect, all the things folded, put away, the drawers, everything. And so when you came along, even though you were just a baby, that shifted my whole ability to now be able to handle all this stuff. Um, and so I felt like I was always behind. I was always treading water. I was never getting caught up. I could never get all the clothes washed. And never, I would get you dressed and be walking out the door, and you look at me and go, projectile vomiting, or have a bowel movement that ran down your leg and mine too. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I can't catch a break with this kid. And so, and so it was really different. It's like, how can one little person upset your whole like stability? And it was just it was a crazy time, because during that right after having you, I hadn't even gone back to work yet. Then Pop had his first heart attack. And
Oh yeah.
so him, literally having an out of body experience because his heart stopped, and Ronnie and I taking him to the Berkeley family practice, and him not breathing, you know, to me now having two little ones. It was a lot, and I started having lots of stomach pains, just lots of anxiety related illnesses, esophageal spasms that felt like I was having a heart attack, just nausea. I mean, then I'd have bouts of just diarrhea. It was just all kinds of just stuff because my insides were responded to me not being able to articulate or handle what was happening. And I went to a gastroenterologist because of all the GI stuff I was having, and he put me on Valium. And I remember being on Valium, and I would take it in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't remember the drive to work.
Really?
I would just show up at Dr. Meyer's office. I guess I was
Wow.
high. I didn't remember nothing about the drive. And I said, this is not good. This is not healthy, and I've got to find a way to not be on this medicine, but I also have to find a way to to figure out what's going on so I can not be like this.
Yeah.
And so I made the choice. I didn't tell Ronnie, I didn't tell my parents. I made the choice to contact mental health. And they used to have a building right across from Mr. K's Piggly Wiggly in this big old house. And so I made an appointment and I went there. And of course, then I dealt with, oh God, I hope nobody sees me, you know. And if they see me, I hope they don't judge me. It was a lot of stuff going on. I definitely did not tell Ronnie. I may not have told him till years later, and I definitely didn't tell my parents. But going there was the best thing ever. Like, it was the best thing. I met with this psychologist, a young man. He was, I mean, I guess he might have been a little bit older than me, but he helped me name some things that I was experiencing. And then he gave me tools to use, like to redirect my emotions and to handle my stress, using relaxation techniques and breathing techniques and that kind of stuff. So
Man,
then I got off
that's
the
awesome.
medicine.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. And I didn't know that until I rode with you. I think I rode with you one time last year. I think you were getting a procedure done and you revealed that to me. And I was like, wow. And, especially with, Black folks in mental health and you recognizing that you had a problem and, being proactive about taking care of doing something about that problem, especially at that time period, that's
Yeah.
remarkable.
The
Like
1980s.
that's like seriously, that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
So, how were you able to find a balance with having children and being able to do other activities?
I've been blessed to have good care providers. Um, they may not have taken good care of themselves because because two of them tried to off themselves, but they took good care of me.
Whoa.
Yeah. My gastroenterologist, he tried to off himself, and my general practice person tried the same thing. So, so this whole mental health thing is a reality for healthcare workers too. Um, but one thing that I remember, Dr. Draffin telling me about, having balance. Dr. Knight, your pediatrician, um, he shared some things with me about balance, and the psychologist did, and so I knew that no one could set up boundaries and create balance for me but me. Uh, so that meant that I had to then wrestle with myself and my type A personality and OCD, to say, go to bed. You don't have to finish this tonight. It would be more beneficial for you to rest. And I don't remember who suggested to me, but I know you remember this, mental health days. And in mental health days, I had these ugly behind green striped pajamas. that if I put them on, I was like, I'm just gonna have a mental health day. And y'all were young. But what I would do is I would leave things on a stool so that y'all could get something to eat. But the plan was not to bother me until I was ready to come out of the room.
Yeah. And, and being 8 years old and you saying mental health day, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, we get a day off from school. Okay, cool. I'm going to go outside and play basketball. Not realizing that you were really doing that for you. And
Okay.
yeah, like that was, I enjoyed the mental health days, but it was for a completely different reason.
Different reason.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get to go to school today. Sweet.
But it was for your mental health too. You
Yeah,
know.
unbeknownst to me. Yeah.
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 And because I can think about like when we traveled a lot with the choir.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we would do that? And I
Oh
would
yeah.
say, yeah, I'm like, we're not going no place tomorrow. Y'all not going to the school. I'm not going to work. We taking it down tomorrow,
Yeah.
And I had no guilt about that because I knew one thing I knew about me. Well, I learned about me the hard way is I can go, 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 go. And if I don't stop, I'm going to get sick or I'm going to make people not like me because I'm going to be so nasty. And Ronnie actually helped me a lot with that because he could see me in full on doing something mode and he'd say, you got to stop or it's time for you to rest because if you don't, you're going to be sick. Or he would say, I think that's a good idea, but I think it would be better for you to rest. And once I started recognizing that he was watching out for me too, and I started listening and not having an attitude and saying, okay, it's not a bad idea. I'm gonna lay on this couch and be a potato for the rest of the afternoon. Then yes, I feel like I was much healthier, physically, emotionally, and mentally, and spiritually, because then I had something to give when if I needed to give to someone. You know what I mean? I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
operating on fumes all the time.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. And so going from that to from finding balance, let's get into well, I guess I was going to say self-care, but that was pretty self-explanatory. You included that into the finding balance portion of the program. So,
Well, wait. Let me
mhm,
just say that
okay.
that for me, self care has evolved now in this season. Because I think once you guys became independent, even before y'all left home, but y'all were independent, then I went back to my old ways. So I didn't have the mental health days. I didn't do self care anymore because it was like I'm just doing stuff for me. I'm not doing stuff for the kids no more. It's all about me. And so I neglected myself unknowingly because I assumed that self care was only important when I was taking care of other people.
I got you.
I had to realize that self care is important even when it's just you taking care of you. So that means, that it's okay to have a slow start into the day, or it's okay to sit on the porch and not work, not read, just be out there. Working my flowers. You know, um, I found that, doing dirt therapy is very much self-care for me. Now it wouldn't be for someone else. My sister says cooking is self-care for her. you know it's the thing that feeds you. And so I feel like the self-care that I did when you guys were little, now it looks completely different. I mean, I still do those things, but I think I'm more intentional. I also think that I give it more attention. It's not done haphazardly. Like I plan it as like, okay, this is what's happening. The whole thing.
Man, I love it. I love it. Going to lighten the mood a little bit. So,
Okay.
just to tie into my other podcast, At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, and in one of my earlier episodes, well, my first episode, I talked about playing Dixie Youth baseball. And you being a baseball mom for a brief period. So what was that experience like for you?
Well, that experience was very daunting for me because I don't know nothing about baseball. Your daddy don't know nothing about baseball, but you said you wanted to do baseball, so we always try to allow you and Melissa to do and support y'all. If it was something that we could reasonably do, wasn't gonna break the bank, wasn't it was possible to for us to do it. We were gonna try to to do that, and so it was a whole different learning experience because of course then I've got to make sure you get to practice because your dad's working. And then I have to make sure that not only you get to practice, but you get to games. You had to get your equipment and that kind of stuff. I know nothing about no cleats and all that stuff. And, and then when it's game time, getting you to the field, uh, if it's my night to do snacks, what kind of snacks? What does that look like? And then the anxiety I felt sitting in the stand, like, oh, is my son gonna play tonight? Is he gonna do good tonight? If he doesn't, like, what do I say? And then, okay, now we got to get in this car to go home because you got school tomorrow. So y'all got to let's get going. So just handling all of that, dealing with the other moms, the moms who were like the beast moms. Yes, the screaming moms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my Lord, yeah. So it was going to baseball games was like going to a Pentecostal church because I was just constantly doing like this.
Just
Like,
head
what's
on a
happening?
swivel.
Yes, and then trying to figure out what's happening on the field too. I'm like, oh Lord, have mercy.
So getting towards the end of the episode here. So just a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. What's
Okay.
the biggest thing that being a mom has taught you?
That you don't know nothing. You do not know everything. Um, and that you are not less of a person if you say, my bad, that was a bad call to your child. If you say, I'm sorry, I didn't do that right. um to admit that I don't even know, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't have the answer for that. um that's okay. It's okay to be real with your child, um to let them know that you don't have all the answers, but you can look for them, and or we can look for them together.
I love that approach. Love that approach. Any words of advice for young parents or parents of teenagers and or parents of adults?
Yeah, I feel like we've gone to this place as parents that we allow devices to parent our kids now. And
Yeah.
I feel some kind of way about kids sitting in the buggy holding a device so they can be quiet, or sitting in the car rider line and they're watching a movie because they just can't go up the street from their house without entertainment. Um I feel like, as parents, I loved talking to you guys. I loved reading to y'all. I loved hearing what you had to say about what went on at school. Like, you would come home with some stories after school, and I'd go, "What you talk about? Who'd you tell that to? Your friend?" You go, "No, mom, I told a teacher." Because it would be something that I knew your people your age didn't get. It would be
Yeah.
some little cryptic or sarcastic, or facetious little comment. And I'm like, I know his friends didn't get it. He's like, "No, I told the teacher that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Just having I don't think parents realize how much communicating with their children impacts who they are as individuals, but also being an educator impacts their learning. When you can have conversations with kids versus them being fed something from a device, they learn social skills. They learn communication skills. They get tons of confidence, and you're helping them become, articulate for not just your reality, but for the wide world reality. Versus now, we have kids who do not know how to socialize. They do not know how to respond. If you talk to them, it's like you're an intrusion because the device is their reality. Parents have to take ownership of what they're creating, because eventually they're going to see that they're creating these people who don't care. They have no compassion and no sense of empathy, because they've never really had to live outside of a created, this created reality that they've been forced to spend all this time with. So my advice to parents, I don't care what age your kids are, talk to them. And once they get to be adults, don't you do all the talking, listen.
Ooh, there it is. I think that's a perfect landing point right there. Man, that was awesome. Such a great guest. And I thank you so much for being my mom. Like I'm dead serious. All the things that you did for me. Taking me to the baseball games, being out of your comfort zone, taking me to Riverbank Zoo. Oh my goodness. I'll never forget. That's like one of the biggest flexes on your fellow classmates in grade school, was when the intercom would come on and say, Danny Foxworth, please come to the office. Your mother is here to pick you up. I'm like, I'm out of here. Y'all got to stay in class. I'm going.
Oh my goodness.
And just exposing my sister and I to so many different things, like taking us to the circus. And I remember you taking us to monster truck rallies. And I mean, you took Melissa to the Hellhole Smart Festival.
And they still have that thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
She was in the beauty pageant. So just the fact that you and Dad exposed us to so many different things, and it just really, we didn't see it, but it really helped us become a lot more well-rounded and being able to adapt to different situations. And I just want to say thank you, and I love you so much.
I love you too, son.
Oh,
I'm so proud of you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. We didn't have a lot of money, but we loved you guys. And once I had you, I wanted you. So I kept you.
Hey, love is currency too.
I know. Absolutely.
So is there anything that you want to promote?
Reading.
There
Literacy. I can't say, get a book, get your child into the library. You show them how to read with them. Read, let them see you as a reader, and have conversations about things that they like to read, and get them to teach you some things that maybe you don't know about. Do stuff together, take a cooking class. But literacy is empowering, and anybody and everybody can do it. And it doesn't take any special equipment. It just takes time.
There it is. It just takes time. Just like it took time for you to make sure that you were doing the right thing, and you molded my sister and I into the model citizens that we are today. That also took time.
Yeah.
And if you listen and you made it this far, I greatly appreciate your ears. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Once again, I cannot thank you enough for listening. And for Mom and myself, y'all be good.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day.